এখানে সেকেন্ড স্টার্ট চলো অন মিলিটারি লেকচার স্টার্ট করে দাও মিলিটারি লেকচার স্টার্ট করবে হ্যাঁ আর তো মিলিটারি প্রশ্ন বলতে আর কিন্তু কি আছে তাহলে তো আপনি আছেন উপরে টিপে উপরে আমাকে আপনি স্টার্ট করবে হ্যাঁ না স্টার্ট না কিছু WhatsApp-এ কোনো কথাই নাই সরি কাছে করবে একদম স্যার অল কি হ্যাঁ অলমানতে নেই বলুন না বলো স্টার্ট করো অলমানতে এখানে বলে দিন না এই এখানে বলো
Good morning, one and all. So we are back with our sessions, day two sessions, and for that, uh, and we are delighted that today we are having lectures from different part of the globe, and for that, at the first technical session at the seminar hall 1. It will be chaired by none other than Dr. Kakuli Bandopadhyay, a renowned physicist, gold medalist from Bardhaman University. It's a proud privilege to introduce Madam once again here in Asansol Girls College. And she's going to chair the session where Dr. Mealy Taylor, environment scientist, and from New Zealand, he is going to deliver his lecture, A System Approach to Environmental Impact and Food Security. Kakuli Madam will read out his accolades and various laurels of Dr. Millie Taylor. So I would request Honorable Kakuli Bandopadhyay Madam to initiate the program and invite our respected speakers here in the virtual platform. Ma'am, the stage is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. I warmly welcome you all to the first session of 2 days, that is the final day of this 2-day international conference on Nexgen Bioresources Frontiers for Sustainable World. Today, our honorable speaker is Dr. Millie Taylor. She is an environmental scientist based in Christchurch, New Zealand. Her expertise in agricultural systems, natural resource management, and spatial analysis. Her work focuses on bridging the communication gap between environmental science and real-world decision-making, supporting evidence-based outcomes in the primary sector. Drawing on experience across land use, water quality, and climate-related challenges, she takes a place-based approach to understand the environmental impacts and trade-offs. Dr. Millie's professional practice emphasizes practical pathways for improving environmental outcomes while maintaining food security and rural livelihoods. Today, Dr. Taylor will be delivering a lecture on the topic, A Systems Approach to Environmental Impact and Food Security. We all know that it is a very important and relevant topic. I am feeling very proud to welcome you, Madam, in this first session. Kindly start your lecture. We are very eager to hear from you and enlighten ourselves from your lecture. Welcome you, madam.
Thank you for the introduction. I will share my screen just so I don't get the feedback from the other end. Do you want to mute it on your end there?
Millie, I think you are not very audible.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you mute at your end, please, to the official girls' college? Can you mute your microphone there so that we don't get the feedback and the no background noise? I think they got that one.
Cool.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I think something was, maybe speak slightly louder. It's a bit muffled for some reason.
Okay, sure. Right, I'll share my screen, share my presentation now, and maybe just give me a thumbs up if you can hear it okay from your end. Or see it, sorry.
Yeah, that's all good. We're audible. Loud and clear.
Cool. Okay, right. Lovely. Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for that introduction, and it's a pleasure to be here presenting to you today. Hello, everyone, and kia ora from Christchurch, New Zealand. I'm Millie Taylor, as you have been introduced. Thank you. I'm an environmental scientist with a background in the agricultural sector and specialisation in geographic information systems and science communication. I work at the interface of science, policy and real-world impact, working to turn environmental data and sustainability efforts into stories that people can relate to and understand. There are many wonderful solutions and innovations happening across disciplines that are paving the way for a sustainable future. What I want to do today is to zoom out on the topic of agriculture and to look at it as a big picture, systems approach using New Zealand as a case study for how we can achieve a reduced environmental impact while still maintaining food security. These challenges are not unique to New Zealand, but to agriculture as a whole. So I hope that you can gain some insight into how this thinking can be applied beyond our shores. Agriculture is operating in one of the most complex periods in its history. Farmers are navigating climate variability, evolving environmental regulation, shifting global markets, and growing societal expectations, all whilst being asked to maintain food security, environmental health, and economic viability. We are no longer simply talking about food production, we are talking about greenhouse gas emissions, nutrient loss to waterways, soil resilience, biodiversity loss, flood risk, and increasingly public trust. Often these conversations become polarised. We hear debates framed as energy production versus food production, conventional farming versus regenerative farming, food production versus protection of the environment. But in reality, the situation is far more nuanced. Every land use decision involves trade-offs. Reducing nutrient loss may affect productivity. Prioritising carbon sequestration may reduce food producing land. Urban expansion may lower agricultural emissions, but permanently remove prime agricultural soils. So the question is not what is the single best farming system. The real question is how do we make better, place-based decisions in a complex system. So today I want to explore a systems-based, data-driven approach to environmental impact and food security, one that integrates spatial analysis, environmental science, and practical farming realities. I believe that when we move beyond simplistic solutions and begin optimising land use intelligently, farmers can become not just compliant players, but adaptive leaders in a changing environmental, political and social landscape. Sustainable agriculture isn't about one solution, it's about making better place-based decisions in a complex system. Right. So to get started, whenever we consider the challenges being faced in agriculture today, we have to understand them in the context of a changing environment. The biggest and most obvious challenge agriculture is facing is climate change. Changing weather patterns, climatic variation, increased extreme weather events. But it's not just climate that is being referred to when we talk about changing environment. It also includes an evolving regulatory landscape. Right now, here in New Zealand, we are going through a once-in-a-generation change in legislation involving our environmental law and what farmers are required to comply with when it comes to environmental impact and land usability. Add to this a changing societal pressure. The rural-urban divide is alive and well in New Zealand and creates division amongst those who produce food and those who consume it. Another is that of food security demands, a growing population needing a secure source of food under finite land areas. How do we produce more output with the same, if not less land? At the same time as environmental pressures increase, global trade dynamics are also shifting. For example, new trade agreements such as the emerging FTA discussions between New Zealand and India expand export opportunities and potentially influence which production systems are prioritised. Trade signals shape land use decisions, environmental policy shapes land use decisions, climate shapes land use decisions. Farmers are navigating all of these simultaneously. So what are we trying to optimise? Nutrient loss, greenhouse gas emissions, soil health, erosion risk, flood resilience, profitability, food production. These are all considerations we must make when talking about the balance of profitable and sustainable food production systems. Can we maximise all of these simultaneously? And if not, what trade-offs are we willing to make in order to achieve a balanced system? Trade-offs are inevitable, but they exist in our daily lives just as they do in agriculture. We are often hassled by factors we need to consider, but forget in the process what prioritising one over the other has a trickle-down effect on. I've come up with a few examples of trade-offs that exist for agriculture and environmental decisions relating to food security, the first being nitrate leaching. This is a main cause of contention in New Zealand around the effect of agriculture on the environment. In order to reduce nitrate leaching, one of the ways we could achieve this, and is something which has been considered at a government level, is a reduction in stocking rate. This would reduce the nitrate leaching due to a reduction in animal numbers per area of land. However, the trade-off to this solution is that in reducing the number of animals per hectare, you also reduce the productivity of that hectare of land. In the case of dairy, reducing the production and output of milk solids. And what makes this difficult for a farmer? This is not an abstract environmental decision, it's a business decision at the end of the day. A reduction in stocking rate affects revenue, debt servicing, employment, and long-term viability of their farm. So what appears environmentally simple becomes economically complex. To move on to another environmental trade-off, consider prioritising reducing carbon emissions. One way to tackle this problem is to plant more trees. An increase in land conversion from agricultural land to forestry is something which is increasing in uptake as farmers look to diversify their farming portfolios and achieve financial security from other means of farming. This is a multifaceted discussion, but one which intersects the line between food security, as well as creating trade-offs around soil acidification, water quality, flood risk, and erosion. It also has the trade-off of reduced food production land, converting instead to a focus on carbon emissions. Forestry is often presented as a clear emissions reduction solution, but when large areas convert, rural communities shift in their dynamics. Employment structures change, processing infrastructure becomes underutilised, and you can create stranded assets. You can end up swapping one monoculture for another, reducing biodiversity and the ability of the land to produce food for people. These trade-offs need to be carefully considered to avoid unintended consequences down the track. So again, we're not simply changing land cover, we're actually changing the systems themselves. Another environmental trade-off we've seen both in New Zealand and in a wider global context is the urban sprawl with population increases and housing development expanding. As this happens, we see an increase in the conversion of agricultural land into housing. At times when cropping or livestock payouts can be low, the premium prices that come with development can be an attractive source of income diversification for landowners. However, the trade-off for this is you permanently reduce the total available area of prime agricultural soils. Once high-class soil is sealed under concrete and infrastructure, it is removed from productive capacity permanently. Therefore, unlike agricultural trade-offs, urban conversion is largely irreversible. Every land use decision has consequences. In all of these examples, it is important to understand that when you focus on optimising a single issue, you run the risk of creating unintended trade-offs which may detract from the original good intentions you set out to mitigate. The key with trade-offs is understanding what it is you are trying to optimise and understanding what you're willing to sacrifice to optimise that factor. So instead, if we zoom out and focus on the system as a whole, it will help us to understand what trade-offs exist, and then streamline the focus on which factors within our control create the most optimised outcome for both humans and the environment. Optimising outcomes for humans and the environment simultaneously means farming down to the 1%. I don't personally believe in silver bullets, so we need to instead optimise land use for maximum efficiency and scrutinise over the changes that increase production for a lower environmental footprint. As I've discussed, trade-offs are inevitable, so how can you limit the negative trade-offs by maximising for land use output efficiency? You can do this through the efficiency of food production, how good you can get at producing food from one unit of land. What if the same stocking rate produced more milk solids per kilogram of nitrate leach, for example? Or you can do it through efficiency in land use. For land which can't produce a higher productivity from agriculture, what could you produce that would create a more efficient outcome instead? Could it, for instance, be planted in native vegetation, native forest for carbon sequestration, reverted to wetlands for water quality and biodiversity improvements, or does it have issues with contamination that would make it more suited to housing, for example? Now, I want to move on to the side of the equation that influences how land use decisions are made. In many cases, we already have a remarkable amount of environmental data. We have detailed soil capability maps, we have erosion risk layers, we have nutrient loss pathways, we track greenhouse gas emissions and model climate projections, and we also have flood zone mapping. So the challenge is not a lack of information, it's a challenge to get all of these different data sets that often sit independently from one another. They're collected for different purposes by different institutions and intersected and interpreted in isolation. Yet land use decisions are not isolated decisions. They sit at the intersection of all of these factors. So the question then becomes, how do we move from data accumulation to decision clarity? Here is where we see the gap, the missing link between data and decision making. So on the left-hand side of the screen, we have fragmented data signals. Environmental data tells us one thing, nutrient limits impose another constraint, carbon incentives create different pressure. Each data set is valuable, but it operates independently. On the right-hand side, we have the on-farm reality. Economic pressure, practical constraints, compliance requirements, time limitations. Farmers are not managing separate environmental variables, they are managing an integrated system, but we really provide an integrated decision framework. Part of the reason is institutional. Data is often owned by different agencies, collected for different purposes, and reported on different timelines. Policy cycles do not always align with farming decision cycles, and technical outputs are not always translated into practical insight. Hence, we find ourselves dealing with this gap. So instead of asking farmers to respond to multiple disconnected signals, what if we integrated those layers spatially and evaluated the land as a whole? This is where spatial analysis is really useful. If we take soil capability, erosion risk, nutrient modelling, greenhouse gas emissions, climate projections, and flood risk, and integrate them spatially, we can evaluate land not as a single farm system, but as a landscape composed of different functional zones. GIS allows us to overlay these data sets and ask what is the most appropriate land use for this specific area. For example, if we take an existing farm from here in Christchurch, Canterbury region, instead of treating it as a single production unit, we can break it down with spatial integration to reveal where opportunities for optimisation might exist. In areas identified as erosion-prone, sloped land, rather than just using this land for grazing, you could instead plant it in poplar trees, for example. This particular species puts down deep roots, which stabilise the soil and reduces erosion risk. They also create shade for animals to shelter under and reduce heat stress. Add to this, trees also sequester carbon and create an additional income stream through selling carbon credits. For land identified as heavy soils with poor drainage, this could be fenced off and retired or planted in wetland species. Wetlands are a key part of the ecosystem, working hard to improve water quality by utilising excess nutrients and bacterial concentrations, as well as providing habitat for biodiversity to thrive. It also goes towards social licence to farm in today's consenting environment here in New Zealand. We are beginning to see changes in the way food manufacturers are acknowledging environmental efforts, and so a nature-based credit system or green premium may soon be offered for this type of landscape enhancement. Add to that, it has also been mentioned in this latest government policy reform that these improvements will all be taken into account when it comes to land use consenting. On the highly productive soils, production can be focused on these areas to farm down to 1% and make those changes that impact positively on productivity. So suddenly optimisation becomes spatially explicit. When we allocate land uses this way, we are not choosing between food and the environment, we're optimising both within the constraints of the landscape. So this means that the conversation shifts from which farming system is best to which is best here. Traditionally, land suitability classification has focused primarily on soil characteristics, such as fertility, drainage, slope. But climate stability was often assumed in these classifications, whereas now that assumption is no longer a given. We're seeing increasing climatic extremes, more intense rainfall events, longer dry periods, greater variability. Here in Christchurch, for example, our region has just experienced flooding this last few weeks, as have other parts of the country in the season, which should be our best for primary production and least rain. This is why pasture-based systems, for example, have historically been prioritised due to its resilience as a relatively low-risk crop when it comes to climatic extremes. Pasture tolerates variability well, unlike horticultural crops which can be wiped out with a single adverse weather event. But as climate volatility increases, certain land uses may become less viable in regions, and some regions are more viable than others. So this therefore begs the question, should land use capability classification include future climate risk, not just historic soil suitability? So if we're thinking about optimisation, we must think forward, not backwards. This also means relying more on environmental data for predictive modelling rather than purely planning against what has happened for the past 5 years, say. If we're allocating land based solely on historical averages, we risk optimising for a climate that no longer exists and is essentially the most dangerous inefficiency of all. And once we acknowledge that climate is reshaping suitability, diversification not only becomes just an option, but also a resilient strategy. Where environmental pressures increase and climate variability rises, relying on a single production model becomes riskier. Diversification can occur in several forms and relates to different aspects of risk. Environmental risk, market risk, and climate risk. To reduce environmental risk, this might involve utilising mixed land uses within the landscape to reduce the impact on the environment. To reduce the market risk, this might be integrating forestry into erosion-prone areas, which adds a new income stream for farmers. To reduce climate risk, this might be considering renewable energy production as an appropriate landscape, such as with agrivoltaics, or diversifying to controlled indoor growing environments, such as with hydroponics. Diversification is not about abandoning food production, it's about spreading exposure across environmental, market, and climatic volatility. In finance, for example, this is called MPT, modern portfolio theory, spreading risk and therefore return across multiple assets. Landscapes arguably require the same thinking. This also raises important trade-offs. Are we making decisions based on a single issue? Everyone has a different opinion on what should be prioritised, but we should be looking at the system as a whole and weighing all options equally. For example, do we prioritise food security or do we prioritise energy security? Do we prioritise export income or domestic resilience? These are not purely environmental questions, they are systems questions. And again, the answer will not be universal. It will depend on where we are geographically, economically, and climatically. And this complexity becomes even more visible when we look at competing land uses beyond farming itself. Take urban expansion as an example. New Zealand, like India, is a growing population which is under stress of housing, so is rapidly expanding urban environments into rural areas. From an environmental standpoint, converting prime agricultural land to housing may reduce nutrient runoff from that land, but it also increases impermeable surface area. It changes flood dynamics and it permanently removes productive soil. Economically, real estate may generate high immediate returns of farming, but what do we want to optimise? Is it water quality? Is it economic return? Long-term food production capacity? This illustrates that environmental decision-making does not occur in isolation from social and economic priorities, which brings us to this tension: if we cannot maximise everything, what are we actually trying to prioritise? So at a national and global level, we often speak as if all objectives can be maximised simultaneously, but in reality, resources are finite. Clean water, lower emissions, food security, biodiversity recovery, energy independence, erosion risk, export income. Capital has a feasibility limit, productive land is finite, human capacity has a labour and economic limit, so we can't optimise everything equally, but we can optimise intelligently. And it's that intelligent optimisation that requires integration, not fragmentation. So that brings us to the central contribution of this approach. If we integrate soil, climate, nutrient, erosion and productivity data spatially, we can allocate land uses according to capability and risk. When we do that, we reduce environmental impact where it matters most, whilst maintaining productivity where it is most efficient. This brings us back to what I mentioned earlier, changing the thinking of which farming system is best to which is best here. When we frame agriculture through this lens, farmers are not at the mercy of regulation. They are strategic land managers, long-term thinkers, data-informed decision makers, and environmental stewards. They understand their landscapes intimately, with access to integrated data and clear decision frameworks. They can lead adaptation rather than resist it. They future-proof and mitigate risk by protecting the environment that supports their livelihoods, their ability to farm, and provide a secure source of food for a growing population. But integration does not happen automatically. It requires translation. Translating complex data sets into practical insights, making trade-offs transparent, aligning incentives with capability, bridging science, policy and practice. This is where real change happens and the environment and food security can be viewed holistically. The future of agriculture will not be defined by extremes and polarisation, blanket approaches that fail to see the nuances of landscapes, climate pressures and economic factors. It will be defined by intelligent, place-based decisions grounded in systems thinking and spatial evidence. When we match the right land use to the right land, we create productive, resilient food systems which reduce environmental impact. So to conclude, we are not lacking data, we are lacking integration. Landscapes are complex and spatially heterogeneous. Risk is spatial. Environmental and productivity goals compete, but they don't have to. I believe you can have productivity alongside better environmental outcomes. Right now we have fragmented signals, creating inefficient decision making. Land use capability is spatial, therefore optimisation must be spatial. Where we integrate soil, climate, nutrient, erosion and productivity data, we enable intelligent land use allocation. the right land use on the right land for the right reason. If we shift the discussion from systems to spatial optimisation, we can improve environmental outcomes without sacrificing productivity. I welcome further discussion and collaboration on this topic, so please feel free to connect on LinkedIn with the QR code or over email by email below. Thank you everyone for listening, and I think we have time now maybe for some questions if there are any.
Thank you, madam. Let us ask everyone here, and also who are in the online audience, that if you have any question, you can ask madam. Any question?
Hi all, this is Prem from New Zealand. Lily, that was wonderful. I just have a couple of quick questions while nobody else is, so I'll just take the opportunity, if that's okay.
Sure.
All right. First of all, I mean, look, you may not have this ready in hand, but I'll be very curious to see, do you have any GIS layout or anything that you have done recently for any institution or anything, without breaching any privacy or confidentiality, of course, that maybe you can just share with us, even just one screen, just to give the audience a broader understanding of what a GIS or that kind of thing looks like, because you may not realize this because you're doing it every day, but still, a lot of places and institutions, even who are very deep into this field, not use these things on a regular basis, and to some people, it does still sound like rocket science, which doesn't need to be. It should be useful stuff, and that should be the norm in your language. But yeah, so do you have any examples you'd like to share?
Yeah, maybe if I stop sharing.
So just a bit on the spatial viewing and what it actually means and what it look like, just a couple of slides if you have.
So this.
Right, I don't want to put you on the spot, but because you were not probably ready for this, but if you have anything.
Maybe if I. This is just an idea.
Just anything, whatever.
Yeah. An example here. What you can see is a landscape here in New Zealand, and what we have is exploration of where wetlands can be prioritised in the landscape based on groundwater emergence. So it's basically just showing you different ways that we can put onto a map to show where prioritisation can exist in a landscape and pulling information from different parts of data systems. So with the yellow here, we can see groundwater with a depth of less than 2 metres, and red areas showing previous historic wetlands, and green dots where they are showing potential for new wetlands to be initiated. So just to kind of show you, bringing in data from various locations and layering them up on a map to produce a landscape view of potential environmental mitigations. That's helpful.
Excellent. Some of the writings are a bit breaking up. I think I'm not sure if it is just my screen. They're not rendering very well. But now that you explained what the yellow ones are, that makes it very clear because, yeah, so you can visualize at a glance that all the yellow spotted areas are where the groundwater depth is less than 2 meters. So that's kind of shallow for groundwater, is that right? Very close to the surface.
Yeah, close to the surface and where you're going to get most bang for buck for mitigation, for improving water quality.
So you don't have to dig much to actually get water or to have a water flooded basin or...
Correct, yeah.
This is not to say not to show the aquifers, right? This is more the water table there, is that right?
Yes, the water table, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And how this data actually, how does the organization at the moment actually get hold of this data? I mean, a lot of people, they wouldn't have, I mean, most farmers, I mean, forget about them, even big institutions wouldn't have access to satellite data or, I mean, unless it's all in public domain. So,
they calculated based on LiDAR data. So we do have a lot of LiDAR publicly available. It's just whether people have the access to use it themselves.
that is the laser assisted.
From a fixed wing.
For fixed wing plane.
Plane, yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay, right.
Yeah.
Mm.
So it produces very high quality data that you can extrapolate a lot of information out of for land-based systems.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Other than that, one other quick question. This is fantastic. Have you had any opportunity to look into how something like this can actually help Indian farmers or the way, because at the moment, I don't know if you're aware of, but this is a hot topic now that the agriculture, irrigation, and this landscape is changing very fast because it's a country of 1,400 million people. It's a scale that we hard to fathom sitting in New Zealand. And they are restructuring everything. And a lot of things do not exist that we take for granted in New Zealand. But then there are some places where very high-tech things are happening in collaboration with other countries that other people don't know. So there's a big disconnect, right? Have you had any scope to look into any of this, or would you be interested to collaborate with any of these academic groups that are present here? Because I think that might open up a whole raft of different opportunities and pathways to improve things further. What do you think?
I think that's the best thing we need to be doing is collaboration, and we're running out of time to be able to make these decisions while we have time up our sleeves. So collaborating and not making the same mistakes that have been made. We have made in New Zealand. So maybe India, can uptake these things quickly, a few of them already in a changing landscape and changing systems. Collaboration is the key for that.
Collaboration is the answer. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. That's all I had. I don't know if anyone else has any questions. That's all I had.
Cool, thank you. Lovely, thank you for listening. I'll pass it back over to you, college.
Thank you, madam. We are all from behalf of Asansol Girls College. Sincerely thank you for your excellent and this insightful lecture. I think your valuable contribution to this session will enlighten not only us but also students from the various institutions who are present here and also who are next Gen Z, I think. They are enlightened here. And thank you again for your valuable lecture. Thank you, madam.
Thank you for having me.
The next session will be chaired by Dr. Gautam Kumar Jana.
On behalf
On behalf of the organizing committee of Asansol Girls College, it is my great pleasure to welcome you all for today's seminar on Nexgen G Bioresource Frontier for a Sustainable World. We are honored to have with us our respected speakers, faculty members, students, and dear participants. I would like to thank each and everyone taking time to join us today. Seminar like this provides an excellent platform to share knowledge, exchange ideas, and gain new perspectives. I am confident that today's session will be both informative and inspiring. Without taking much time, let us begin to start our program. Now I invite Mr. Prendip Taradar for his topic, Demulsifying Hydroponics and CA, why it becomes premium only and how it scales is for sustainable food security for India and the world. Mr. Taradar is co-founder and CTO of Alexis Lab and Director of Engineering and Alexis Lab. He holds a Bachelor of Technology in Applied Electronics and Instrumentation. He takes a bachelor degree in international business, which brings their sales. He is focused on solutions that are both technically rigorous and commercially scalable. He has designed and developed a vast array of advanced hydroponics and climate control products and forms infrastructure across New Zealand, Australia, and India. His innovative engineering and growth space, R&D, architecture, designs, and technologies have helped 26 sessions, which is New Zealand's largest indoor strawberry operators. Some key collaborators with him are Plant and Food Research New Zealand Government, Climate Activity Forum, University of Hohenheim, Germany, MIT University, Kolkata, India, and Lincoln University, New Zealand. His current focus on demystifying why hydroponics CEA often remain outlining premium only. His practical transition reduce water use, reduce chemical contamination, and improve yield stability under heat and climate. Sir, please go ahead.
Hello everyone. So this is, can you hear me? All right?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, excellent. All right, I'll just carry on. So first of all, thank you very much for having me. My name is Prem, commonly known as Prem. My full name is Prem Taradar, and I represent Alexis Lab, which is devoted for climate-oriented activities to augment and enable and help and solve the problems, the most daunting ones, in short. So I'll just start with my slide here. Let me see, I'll put this, and if you just let me know if you can see it on your screen. So give me a second, please. Okay, so I'll share the screen, and right. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yes,
Just
sir.
show.
Power बोले थे नहीं
Now, yes, sir. Yes, yes.
Okay, can you see the slide? That's the Alexis Lab pioneering hydroponics.
Yes बोले थे
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right, excellent. Thank you. All right. So Alexis Lab pioneering hydroponics and environmental systems for a sustainable future. Hydroponics, well, it's known to some people, quite alien to the others. I'll not go into any doubts, I'll just explain a bit. So this is a tool. It's a premium tool. Think of it as a laptop, not as a pen or paper. A laptop or a MacBook or an expensive piece of equipment, a phone, an expensive car. That's what comes to mind. So from premium only to mainstream sustainability. So the story today is that I'm going to tell you is how to use your Ferrari or your Porsche or your Lexus or your to cultivate the land, to use it as a tractor. Well, the best analogy I can come up with. Not necessarily that's how you think, but that's what it is. It's premium. But it's very valuable. It can be. So we are entering a world where land shrinks, water tightens, and climate destabilizes. We all know what that means. The water sources, they're shrinking, and as the climate is getting more and more hostile, not friendly, at least not towards us. So this is Prem, thank you very much, and I'm representing Alexis Lab New Zealand and Alexis Lab India. So what we will look for today is what is hydroponics in a nutshell, and this beautiful technology that allows us to do CEA or controlled environment agriculture, how it can be useful without breaking the bank, without making a big hole in your pocket. So you can see in this dramatic photo here, and don't even ask me, yeah, of course this is AI generated. I mean, who else can come up with something like this without AI? So look at this, but this is very true. There's a farmer, there's a famine-struck, there's a drought-struck land, all parched, broken, cracked, there's no water, and water is being drained and misused, all pollution, the tree doesn't need leaves. It's all about nothing, and negative, a dystopia. On the right-hand side, however, this is green, lush, full of high-tech equipment, pipelines, and whatnot. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the stark difference between what is and what can be. Now this is my style, pardon me a bit. I kind of think non-linearly and I jump back and forth. But I think that's how our mind works. So I'll show you first some photos of our local work. This is in Kolkata. And if anyone is interested to visit, just give me a buzz after this meeting or talk to Dr. Swati and I can arrange a visit for you. Look at this farm that we've developed there. Look how beautiful it looks. This is a photo taken just this morning to show you guys. So this is a hydroponic NFT farm, a real photo, right? Look at the quality of the plants. It's almost zero waste running right now, solar powered. And yes, it is in Kolkata, not far from where you are sitting. We call this a loose CEA NFT. This is the term that I come up with, loose CEA, and I'll tell you what that is. Now, look at the beautiful plants on the top and look under the table on the same farm. Do you see all these leaves and things that are hanging out? Can everyone see the photo? Please just tell me a yes if you can. Can everyone see?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I'll assume that you can. These leaves are actually good chicken feed. It goes to chickens. And the result is larger nutrient-dense eggs that the chickens lay in the farm. A nice byproduct to have. Look at this setup. This is our germination, this is a propagation table. Now, none of these are normal agriculture practice. These are all cutting edge, so-called cutting edge, new generation stuff. This wastes nothing. This is a zero waste propagation table. And this is in Kolkata too. This can produce thousands of plants every day. Look at this one. So this one is basically hang on a second, I'm just trying to get you guys back into my screen. Off we go. So this one is oh my God, back to the screen one. Okay, sorry about that. Look at this. So this is an indoor strawberry farm, one of the largest one actually in New Zealand. Look at the strawberries. These are some setups, some indoor setups. There's a special kind of chili, capsicum, bell pepper, Thai, basil, parsley, alpine strawberry, dill, lot of different plants, coriander, different color lettuce. I think this one is American butter crunch. Beautiful color, red color. Now this is a small test setup for strawberries indoors. Now this allows to grow strawberry inside your house, and not just any strawberry, beautiful Michelin-starred red strawberries. And this particular one on the right side is right inside my home. It's actually sitting 10 meters from me right now, from my home office. And this doesn't need any tight climate control environment either, because it's inside the house. Now what I will do is, okay, first take a look at this, the germination chambers. On the left-hand side, you can see plants being germinated with 100% success rate, and then they have been propagated, and then there is this computer-controlled, fully tight climate-controlled germination chamber. Now look at this. It's a lot of you probably would already recognize it. This is a shade net. It's a green shade net. The main job of this thing is to protect plants from too much sunlight. So too much sunlight, that burns plants. What does too little do? It does this. Look at this, just 12 days ago, when weighted, they weighed only 15.2 grams a plant, 15 grams, 1.5. Now look, we changed some parameters, and just 12 days later, similar batch, same kind of in the same life phase, it's 252 grams. What is that? 17 times of growth. Now this is a result of loose CEA. I'll tell you what that is just in a minute. 253 grams, and the other one was 15 grams. 17 times difference in only 12 days. What was doing that? This shed net, the very thing that is in use in India and a lot of the parts of the world, when was being done without any data, without any knowledge of anything, just traditional way of doing things, they produce these rickety small plants, same variant, weighing only 15 grams. If you are the farmer and the same plant is now 253 grams, you would be over the moon, you'd be so happy. Because this would mean your farmhouse producing 100 kilograms of produce versus 1.7 ton, 1700 kilograms of produce with nothing extra required. No water, no nutrients, nothing. Let's see why I picked agriculture and why sustainability is a big deal about agriculture. So from here on, I'll go a bit fast, and if you have questions, then obviously we'll look into that later, right? So this is, I call the table A, the table that no one likes. What does that mean? What that means is, this tells you some truth that you don't want to hear, nobody wants to. So, we have the problem of the problem. What is the problem at hand? The problem is sustainability. What sustainability means for us to be able to sustain our lives, our living the way we live. And that is governed by, just like Dr. Millie, as Dr. Millie just before me, has perfectly highlighted, it takes 2 or 3 things, not just one, not just food, it takes energy, it takes water. So these are the pillars of civilization, is the pillar that keeps us, sustainably on this planet, keeps us survive, keeps us thrive. You take any one of them out, the whole thing collapses. So what does that mean? Why does agriculture and how does it matter? Well, it does matter because see, the biggest problem right now that we all know, and a little kid can tell you, is fresh water is scarce. Fresh water is running out. Not seawater, fresh water. Now, fresh water, agriculture uses 80% of India's fresh water. This is the World Bank report. It's very quite accurate, very high quality. 80% of India's fresh water is for agriculture. Let's look at the land. 42.8%, 43% of India's total geographical area is being used by agriculture and agriculture only. 43%, that is almost half of India. And you know the land price and how difficult it is to find a good piece of land, right? Yeah. Greenhouse gas emissions. 14% of India's total greenhouse gas comes from agriculture only. And remember, these are conservative numbers because the government doesn't want to make it any worse than bad than it already is. And the biggest are methane, nitrous oxides, nitrates, groundwater stress. We are extracting 60% of groundwater without recharging it, without letting it refuel. We are sitting on a water stress level of 29 days. This is United Nations report. What does that mean? If it doesn't rain for 29 days in a row, continuously, India will dry out and people will drop dead. You can supply milk, you can supply gasoline, petrol, you cannot supply water for a country of 1,400 million people. You cannot. And this happened in Chennai in 2019, we already know. And trust me, agriculture is to blame. Obviously it is. It is the ugly truth. That's why this is the ugly table that no one likes. Agriculture is a top sustainability lever, guys and girls, India as well as globally. It's not a small part of the problem. It is the problem. It is what gets us food. It is what uses or abuses our water. And it is what keeps our lands occupied. It is what deforests, makes rainforests disappear, burn them, and then turn them into paddy, rice field, and other things. And what do? We have to survive, right? People have to eat. What do? They don't have a choice. But I'm telling you, they do. We do. Fossil fuels, we use tractors, we use all sorts of diesel pumps and stuff. They're all adds to the emission, we all know that. And making matter worse, it's a highly diffuse system. It's hard to control like an engineered plant because it's not centralized. I call it the is one of the largest sustainability levers. Think about it, right? What I said earlier, 80% of the water use, and globally the numbers are not very different, is agriculture. If we can cut that 80% by 90%, if I tell you there's a way, we can reduce that 80% by 90%, that means now we drop to 8% only. For the next few thousands of years, we can all play with water as much as we want, we will not worry about water scarcity or water shortage. No, won't be. Bangalore is already suffering. I know because my parents, my family live there. 400 lakes that used to supply Bangalore water, 90% of them dried up. It's a big worry. In 40 years' time, Bangalore city might have to be evacuated just because of lack of water. And they are buying water there, by the way. Sometimes to actually take a shower, they have to buy water. Yeah, this is the reality. So, if we can reduce 90% of our load, we'll save so much, that will alone save so many of the problems, that will alone provide so much relief. Freshwater use, 70 to 80%. Land use, 50%. Food system emission, 1/3 of the global emission comes from agriculture. Biodiversity loss. Agriculture is the primary driver of habitat loss. Birds, animals, everything. It's not just humans, it's the other animals, the other organisms. They play a key role in the ecosystem. We are all connected, we're not isolated. And this is without a doubt. The hidden cost. First, not only invoice. People quickly goes to calculation like, okay, I know there are a lot of experts there that I speak to, and they would say, okay, you're talking about CEA hydroponics, but do you know, this is how many rupees it takes to produce 1 kilogram of rice, and the farmer only can sell it for this much, the government pays this much subsidy. So what do? We don't have any room to play. They say this is cheap, and anything else is expensive. Well, I tell you what, it's not cheap. It is actually super expensive by the way it is. Only thing is, who pays the price? For example, if there is something that costs 100 rupees or $100, and you only get it for $10 or 10 rupees, you think it is cheap. Let me tell you, no, that 90, the balance is coming from somewhere else. And sooner or later, you will have to pay the bill. If you don't, then your sons and daughters will pay. And right now, that's where we are. So something that looks cheap is actually super expensive, to the point that it cannot be sustained anymore. And that's what brings us to sustainability as a topic. Look into the who pays when food looks cheap. Groundwater depletion, soil degradation, we pay later for climate, health, and instability. Look at this. Seed, labor, water, fuel, power, land, all of the costs that we can calculate. The true costs are the water depletion, the soil, the greenhouse emissions, the social costs, health damage, climate risk, rural distress, people being stressed out, farmers committing suicide, economic costs, price volatility, national impact, the nature of the society, the country. This is the true cost. So yes, agriculture, my friends, is not cheap. It never was. CE and hydroponics demystified, right? CE is a spectrum of control. Hydroponics is water and nutrient delivery method. It's not fancy pipes. Excuse me, it's not just that. People think it's pipe and water. No. It's way more than that. It's way more than what we are. CEA, controlling the key variables. Controlled environment agriculture. That is what CEA stands for. Goal is to resource efficiency and stability. Resource efficiency and stability. Whatever we have, use it properly. Do not abuse it. If something needs 1 spoon of water, please don't pour a bucket load of water there just because you can. Just because you think it is free. No, it's not free. Nothing else. NASA revived it, hydroponics and CEA, to help turn Mars into Earth. The planet Mars I'm talking about. Not Earth into Mars. But the thing is, it's not like a yes or no. It's not like a Boolean problem where it's either this or that. No. It can be in many ways, many shades. Open fuel is totally no CEA. To that protected maybe with shade net tunnels and stuff. To hybrid, partial climate and automation, all the way to the tight CEA, fully controlled environment agriculture. You don't have to have extreme trial CEA. But right now, the open field methods, they are not serving us. Lucy, augment, don't overactuate. Don't try to control everything. We don't need to. The cost explodes, right? The cost just explodes. Find the most influential nodes. For example, the shading, IR coating, infrared blocking, airflow, root zone temperature, recirculation, relative humidity, nutrient profile, on and on. Do 80% impact with 20% complexity. And yes, it is possible. We are doing it already. Why CEA become premium only? Let's get back to that. It's not an ideology. It's not fancy talks. It's physics and economics. Simple. Full stop. CapEx per square meter, the capital expenditure. The energy burden, cooling, dehumidification, and lighting. Tremendous amount of energy. How much? 300 times more. Yes, 300 times. Reliability requirements, the failures, any failure can be super costly. Skill plus maintenance overhead. You have to have people that know what they're doing. An early ROI favored high margin crops. Everybody thinks about lettuce, strawberry, saffron, and those things. Well, saffron is not going to feed us, is it? The physics that quietly kills efficiency. For example, you have a farm where there are artificial lights growing in plants, but they are far high, up high. Now that is loss. The distance is cost because the light works on the basis of inverse square. What does the light source? More photons it wastes, and wasted photons is wasted electricity. It adds heat load, and then you add air conditioning to get rid of that heat. More money, expensive crops, and you can't sell. No point. More watts is the wrong fix. People, geometry, uniformity, and physics win. It is an engineering challenge. It's not marketing gimmick. It doesn't need to be. It never was. It never should be. That is not sustainable. Let's examine a real world scenario. Okay? Let me show you some real stuff. And this is from our real data, by the way. You are totally welcome to challenge it. From our R&D. An 18 watt of LED lights at 12 feet. Sorry, 12 inches. 1 feet that is. Gives you 80 power. Now what is power? For people that you don't know, it's not a very common thing anyway. It's called photosynthetically active radiation. It's the light spectrum, the part of the light that plants actually do use. Plants do not use the whole sunlight spectrum. It uses some certain parts of it. The blue spectrum, the red spectrum, some of the UVA, UVB, some of the NIR, near IR, right? Those things. So it gives 80 power, an 80 watt LED when you're not using sunlight. Now that same light, you bring it down to 5 inches, that power value jumps to not, you might think that 12 inches was giving 80 power, so 5 inches must give maybe, I don't know, 160 power? No. It works logarithmically. That 80 power becomes 500 power. Just by reducing the height by 6 inches, 6 or 7 inches. Now the thing is, the plant only needs 100 power. See, you don't need 500. So you dim the light, you make it 3.5 watt only, and you get 100 power. So what have we done? Same 18 watt LED, now using 3.5 watts, that is 80% energy saved, and yet we are getting 100 power, which is 25% more than what we started with. So we started with 80 power at 12 inches for 18 watts. Now we are spending only 3.5 watts and getting 100 power, 20% more light by reducing 80% of energy. Can you believe that? Such a simple thing. It's just one example of hundreds of things that can be done and we're doing. At the same time, a light when it is running at 3.5 watts, not 80, is going to be much less hot. It's much less hot as well. So the heat output will be less. That means your air conditioning load will go down, which will be 40% less minimum between the entire crop cycle. That itself is a huge thing. Look at the difference from some real plants from our real farms. The plant on the left side, leftmost, is under close light growing condition, high power, low energy. And the right normal, just in sunlight. The middle one is using full power light, but we're not being smart here. Look at the same plant, same batch of plants, but look at the growth difference, same amount of time. You can see it just in 1 week period, and this is high basil. It's a very expensive and very much in demand, produced right now even in India, even in Kolkata. There's a huge demand of high basil. So the overlooked variables, we're thinking about temperature and humidity. No, but there's more to that. There's this whole thing called enthalpy, which is the physics of the energy content of hot air or humid air. You must have heard about temperature control, humidity control, temperature sensor, but have you heard about enthalpy sensor? But that is what physicists do. That's what labs do. But in agriculture, we don't even hear about it. I'll give you a quick example. We all know there are days when you feel nice and comfortable, but the temperature is still high. And there are other days, the temperature is low, but you still feel uncomfortable and sweating. Why? Because the humidity matters too. The same kind of heat and temperature in Delhi or in Kolkata, in Bangalore or in Odisha makes huge difference. We all know that. Plants actually suffer from the same. And in a greenhouse, this can change from morning to the night, several times. So in one day, they experience all the climate there is. So stabilizing the enthalpy of the canopy is a big piece of work that we are actually focused now on for the last almost 2 years now. And turns out the magic number is 45 to 55 kilojoule per kilogram of dry air. Again, this is science, people, and it's much easier to do than you might think. And this also saves 52% of more energy as well. So this saves energy and does better. So we are not spending anything extra. This is where CEA becomes engineering, not gadgetry, not marketing. Distributed agriculture, India's biggest problem, is hard to optimize. Indian irrigation is a collection of millions of microsystems, not one, not two, millions. Data shows tube wells dominate the irrigation. Let's look at this. 25% water comes from canals. Tank gives only 3%. Tube wells are 50%. Others, the rest are coming from other sources. Same data, 1 year apart, with government investments and all sorts of efforts and initiatives, we still have tube wells the king, 49%, almost 50%. It has increased, and the rest are coming from canals and other sources. Now, where is this tube well water is coming from? Mostly shallow aquifers. And a lot of them has arsenic poisoning, cadmium, mercury, and whatnot. Food security reality check. Remember, I started saying premium crops, premium ways is not going to solve the famine, not going to solve India's food problem. Food security is calories, plus logistics, plus stability. All of them have to be aligned. Staples dominate. We can eat lettuce in a fancy restaurant or in a sandwich from Subway or burger from McDonald's. Yeah, that's all good. But we need rice and wheat and potatoes. We need carrots. We need fruits and vegetables, not just lettuce, not just coriander. So the real question is, how does CEA evolve beyond premium crop? Let's look at the water use. Rice uses 1,500 to 2,000 liters of water per kg. Can you believe it? It's like a swimming pool of water to make 1 kilogram of rice. Extremely water intensive. Wheat, gehu, it takes 1,400 liters. Potatoes, only 250 to 300 liters per kilogram. Now, if I tell you in hydroponics or CEA, these numbers can become 10, 20 times less. So the rice can be done for 150 liters, not 100 to 1,500 or even less. Potato can be done for 20 to 30 liters. Imagine the difference it will make. Potato example. It can be done in this field called aeroponic. If you want to know more, you can always ask me. So aeroponic is is still hydroponic, more efficient. It uses mist of air, nutrients, mist of water mist. Doesn't use any grow media like hydroponics do. Doesn't need pollination. It produces tremendous yield, tremendous produce. And yes, it is a staple food. Rice itself is a massive water lever, like I told you. We all know the issues that Punjab is facing now, and is affecting Delhi and all the other areas nearby. Haryana too. But indoor growing rice, indoor economics are tough today. It's tight CEA for rice, technically possible, economics are the barrier. But what we can do, we can play water smart. Field practices, hybrid protected systems, targeted pilots. We can collaborate and we can work on growing rice indoor or under loosely coupled CEA system. That alone can change the way we do our food production now and India's economy, the farmers' welfare, all these thirst areas and the dry famine trap and all the issues that come with it. Controlled rice would reduce water land, but it will give you low margin. It's a long cycle produce and must be done in huge volumes. And the cost still dominant. But guys, if we started thinking about that, we always just thought that just because it is expensive now, it will always be like that, then computers would still be a thing that IBM can have as a supercomputer, a big mainframe. You wouldn't have a laptop. I would not give this lecture from my desktop computer. I would not be even able to afford it. If somebody haven't thought about it, haven't had thought about it, then one day these things will be in the palm of our hands. We will hold in a thing called smartphone. So yes, it is possible. It's only possible if we all think properly, think it through, and work together. So key takeaways from here: CEA adoption must be crop strategy. Something that works for lettuce, of course, wouldn't work for strawberry. Of course, wouldn't work for rice. So water leverage, margin and market, and base near-term CEA role. So people think about what we do. What can we do right now? Well, we can work with potatoes. Potatoes can be grown really easily with very high level of success and already being done. That is not non-traditional ways. The transition ladder. Now this is where it gets interesting, the main framework, Alexis way, our way, which can be your way too. How to scale impact without going broke, without breaking the bank. Well, protected cultivation, shade, insect net, microclimate basics, recirculating hydroponics, or partially recirculating hydroponics, water efficiency lead. Something that takes 5,000 liters will become 60 liters. Yes, we have done it. 60 liters, 5,000 liters versus 60 liters. Loose CEA zones, canopy, root zone control and sensors. Tight CEA only where justified. High constraint, high value strategies. Think strawberry, think raspberry, think asparagus. These are expensive crop, will get better value. Do them, no problem. But for rest of the things, do no CEA. Nature assisted HVAC, think subsoil thermal, solar assist, psychrometric enthalpy. Now we are working on this for the last 2 years in my parents' old place close to Bangalore. If anyone is interested, ask me and we can show you. Solar assist, psychrometric enthalpy, these are the way to go. So bioresource efficiency, what do? We recirculate and reuse. Recapture and reduce runoff, just like Dr. Millie said as well. Bio-based substrates. Let's use cocoa peat, biochar blends. Let's use renewable and thermal storage integration. Think about it this way. Have an engineering mindset. Find the norms. Iterate fast. CEA is a multi-variable optimization problem. It's not one thing. It's not like, oh, how many kilograms of rice I can do with this many rupees. No. Think of it as a whole thing. How much land, how much rice, who's doing, how much they're making, what impact on the environment, how fast, and how can we do it sustainably. So when you think about all of this together, land, water, climate, energy, crop, season, capex, labor, yield, it becomes too complex to feel and think because our brains cannot work like that with so many factors together. So we need simulation, decision dashboards, not opinions, not what we feel, but what we know, what our data shows us. So we thought, how about we make an app decision tool to help us iterate fast? A feasibility diary tool, like a bank mortgage calculator. So we are already building it, and it will be pretty soon be made available to the public for free, for the academics and the scientists and the students and the future entrepreneurs to use. Coming soon. Keep in touch if you want to know more. In this, you will have inputs like location, climate, the crop choice, the land, water, power, budget, what is the output you're expecting, feasibility, expected resource constraints, intensity ranges. Its purpose would be to help institutions, startups, and farms make informed choice, optional, invite collaboration and the pilots. But remember, it's not about the sales pitch about this. It's more like a sales pitch to an open audience who would like to collaborate and learn and do this. Right? So this is to invite the collaboration. But collaboration also means making smarter decisions together. And this will allow it to happen. So if you take a look at this photo and pay attention to this, we are calling this a CEA Feasibility Explorer. In the back end, of course, this is working with AI and our real data and real sensors and feedback, everything that we've learned so far. And you can choose what you want to do, in which way you want to do, in which part of the world, within what sort of budget, what crop, with what environmental impact, and it will actually tell you thousands times faster than humans can do, over and over. So you can just change, turn the knobs, the dials, and you can come up with it. Why? All because so that you can make smarter and more informed decisions. So the metrics that matter, we have to think about not what crop where. We have to think about liter of water usage per kilogram. So how many liters we are using for per kilogram water? How much kilowatt hour, how much energy we are using for 1 kilogram of rice, or anything else for that matter. How much rupees, how many rupees per kilogram of produce? So what is the rupees per kilogram cost? That is the capex, the capital expenditure, and the OPEX, the operational expenditure. The yield stability, how much is going in and how much is coming out, the input versus output. And the food safety and the pesticide, that alone is a big problem in itself. All the toxic things that we're putting in our food, that we don't have to, because CEA allows you to grow things without pesticide and becomes better than organic. Yes, US, FDA, and other institutions around the world has actually now branded, has now stamped hydroponics as better than organic. It has given organic hydroponics a CEA hydroponics that level now. So that means a lot, that tells a lot, just by itself. Land footprint and ecosystem pressure. So the key takeaway, if you think, my last slide, from premium niche to resilience infrastructure, it doesn't have to break the bank. It's just like where a smartphone will do. We don't want a full MacBook or a laptop. We don't need to. But if it does need a MacBook or laptop, then we have to justify the case for it. So it has to be case by case, crop by crop, area by area. And that's what that app is going to help you to actually iterate and find out. Remember, it's not going to do the work for you, but it's going to actually show you, put you in the right direction, and highlight problems that we sometimes fail to see, because it's just too many things. Okay. CA is a spectrum. It doesn't have to be yes or no. You can choose anywhere in between. Low CA may scale fastest. Premium only is not destiny. It's an engineering plus economic phase. If we optimize the right knobs, guys, CA can become a real food security tool. I'll show you some quick photos that I probably don't know how I missed. I think it was in the beginning. Let's see here. We've seen this already. Let me just quickly show you this photo here. One thing that just happened in the last few days. There's a dark frame photo here. Okay, this one, sorry. Look here. So what happened, as you can see, it's 26, it's very recent. So just yesterday, my team was working in this Kolkata greenhouse, right? And the temperature hit almost 40 degrees at, what was it, 10:30 a.m. in the morning. Inside the greenhouse, it can be very, very high. And I know it's not full summer yet in India, but it just hit that temperature. Now, that's very high for the plants, right? Especially for the lettuce and rockets and those kind of delicate plants. Simple act of pulling the shade has reduced the temperature by 4 degrees, as you can see, within 20 minutes. Adding a layer of near-infrared absorbing water film on top of the greenhouse layer. Now, this is not fan pad cooling, because fan pad cooling is rubbish, it doesn't work in West Bengal. It's too humid, enthalpy is too high. So instead, we're using this NIR blocking, NIR blocking, near-infrared ray blocking, which is the rays of the sun that brings the maximum heat load. Sun doesn't just give us light, it gives us heat too. So that's where the heat is coming from, that band, the NIR band. In that NIR band gets absorbed by water film. So just apply that, and you see in next 10 to 15 minutes, the temperature has come down to 32.4 degrees, which is 6.5 degrees of cooling without using any power at all, almost no power. Only as little as it takes to run a very small pump. So this is real. This is absolute real. Just one of the many things that can be done if we just know what we are doing by not just feeling it, but actually seeing the data and taking action. So I'm done with it. Not my work yet, but with my presentation. And here comes the Q&A. I don't know if we have any time left, but if anyone has any questions, this is your time to come up with them. Just to give you some ideas, I just put 3 things here.
Thank you very much, sir.
I'll just hand the mic back on. All right, guys.
Thank you very much, sir. Is there any question from audience?
Thank you, sir. It was a great lecture from hearing from you, gaining so much knowledge. And today's my question is that how does the absence of soil alter the plant microbe interactions in hydroponic roots?
Sorry, guys, I couldn't hear you. Was that a question, or can you speak a bit louder, please?
My question is that how does the absence of soil alter the plant microbe interactions in hydroponic roots?
I really apologize, but I couldn't hear you very well. Can you come forward and maybe have the mic or something? I mean, I can hear a few words, but I don't want to answer based on a question that I didn't fully understand.
So my question is that how does the absence of soil alter the plant microbe interactions in hydroponic roots?
Okay, so if I hear you correctly, how does the absence of soil alter the characteristics of the plant? Did you say the characteristic of the plant?
No, sir. Alter the plant microbe interactions in hydroponic roots.
In hydroponic roots, did you say the roots?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Plant microbe interactions.
Right. Okay, look, I'm not exactly sure if I heard your question because the mic is actually fumbling a bit. But if your question is about how does the soil alter the root structure of hydroponic plant, is that what you say?
No, sir. Does the absence of soil alter the? Sir, my question is that how does the absence of soil alter the plant microbe interaction in hydroponic roots?
The
Plant
micronutrient,
microbe, plant microbe interactions.
plant microbial. Sorry, I was getting micronutrients. Okay, plant microbial axis. Okay, very good question. So when you ask that question, you also definitely know, and your question is coming from the angle that microbes do a lot of different things to plants, and they form a synergy, a harmony, and a symbiosis, right?
Yes.
And that helps the plant's root growth, oxygen exchange, and all ion exchange, and stomatic pressure, and a whole raft of things. Very good question. Now the thing is, remember, microbes come from soil, and a lot of microbes agree?
Yes, sir.
And a lot of the things that actually there actually do come from the environment. So hydroponics, even being a fully sterile environment, or we try to, is not free from microbes. There is microbe present there. There always will be, because it is not detached from the environment. If it is being done in a lab that is built for rocket science by NASA, then obviously maybe it will be sterile and there won't be anything. But if it is done for normal farms, what it is, microbes are always being transferred into the system, whether you want or not. It is a contamination and it comes to the plant. The question to ask is the right kind of microbes or not. So, if the right kind of microbes are present, that we call a good microbial load, that good microbial load helps plant. But at the same time, bad microbial loads actually hinder the plant growth. They damage plants, right? In hydroponics, a lot of the microbial activity is not required for the plant. They don't rely on it because the computer, with the help of the sensors, continuously keeps track of the nutrient profile and the pH balance. These are two of the main things that microbes actually make available to the plants, to their root system. Think of it this way. You will need water to drink on a hot day, but if I have a water drip line, like a saline water or something, connected already to your body and constantly being monitored and delivered, you will not be thirsty. You will not need water. It doesn't mean you are not using water. You are. It's just the delivery is different. So the microbes will be now not that much important to the plants that they normally would be. Okay? Because the plant is already getting everything. Another big thing is the oxygen depletion. The plant's root need a lot of oxygen. We don't realize that, but the root of the plants need a lot of oxygen. And that oxygen actually comes from anaerobic activity from a lot of microbes as well. But here, we use air compressors and ozone generators to actually flood the water with tremendous amount of oxygen. So that means again another thing, another utility is broken. Third is the pH control. That is also done by computer and sensors. So it doesn't need it. Now having said that, there are work being done now to introduce even more helpful microbes, especially benign microbes, to help them further. It's a very interesting field of hydroponics research, and in future we will probably see more and more microbes actually intentionally added to hydroponics. But of course, then, because it's a controlled environment, we will have better choice which one to add and which one not to. In soil, you don't have that choice.
Yes.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. It is clear. No.
Okay.
Yes, Prem, it is Swati here.
Hi, Swati.
Yeah, so thank you, thanks a lot, Prem and Millie, that both of you have given an excellent presentations in this platform, and looking forward to the future collaborations too with you all. But I have one question to you, as in view of the last questions, as you were the student was asking about the plant microbe interactions. So here, how the endophytes that could be monitored in this particular area, as you are working with the, you have answered on based on the exophytes. So how the endophytes, because in different research it already been published that endophytes have a great role to control the secondary metabolites. So in that
control that, or you just cut out a bit? I heard to the control, and then?
Yeah, as because endophytes, whatever the endophytes which are present in the tissues and within the plant itself, so that interactions, how it could be monitored to this system. So if you can give few lights on that areas, then it will be helpful for us also.
Okay, that's very interesting. And remember these guys, I'm not an agronomist, I'm an engineer, and I'm a robotist and automation engineer. But the knowledge and experience that I've gathered, I can tell you a few things. The things that you're talking about are very interesting, where machine and biology actually fuses. And there are more and more advanced sensors and work are being done, and some of them, because you are opening now that can of work, there is this government group called SASMIRA, which is the central government directly under Narendra Modi. And we are working on these projects in Navsari, and pretty soon there will be 65 research locations, including West Bengal, I hope, which will put much more light on this kind of areas. But at the moment, I can tell you, there are things like NIR spectrography. A lot of these things that you're saying to monitor them, you cannot directly monitor them. So far, the limit of science and technology, yes, you can do that in a lab to some degree under a microscope or under, but when it is outside, outdoor, most of the time it has to be indirect. And indirect means you have to look at the interactions. For example, plant sap flow. We can measure the sap flow. We can measure the mobility of calcium. We can measure the ion exchange in the root level. These things are already possible. We can monitor and even control the stomatal conductance and the stomatal activities like the stomatal interaction to VPD and other factors. Now, when you think about all of this, these actually are manifestations of all the internals of the plant itself and the organisms that are interacting, that are at play. But a big problem to that at the moment is most of the hydroponics lately, they still focus on short-lived, short-term plants, short cycle. Does that make sense? We are talking about something that starts and finishes within 6 weeks, 5 weeks, even 4 weeks. So you are not looking at perennial, you are not even looking at annual. Now, when you don't have that, you don't even have the scope to long-term study. So what the other approach that we normally take, they take leaf samples, they take tissue samples, and that gets sent out to labs, which is the current way of doing things to monitor the activities. But that is offline and not real time. So what we do instead is we are trying to add AI and machine learning there to indirectly infer from vision based and not just normal vision. I'm talking about hyperspectral vision, where you mostly get in IR, near infrared, and you also get under UV that actually reveal quite a lot of details. Now, how to interpret them and how to actually use them for our benefit, that is up to all the researchers and scientists like you guys, because this is where we have to work together. This is still an emerging field. This is not fully done yet. Like, for example, a lot of that interaction changes when you introduce things like biochar or active charcoal, right? But the problem is we can theorize, we can microscope, but we cannot real-time track these things. We cannot. This is a limitation, and I accept it. But the thing is, just because we cannot today doesn't mean we cannot tomorrow. Because we are constantly working on it. And more plants that are being added to hydroponics and CEA, the more the scope is widened. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your excellent presentations and all that time what you have given for us. Thank you for that. Okay.
Most welcome. Thank you very much, guys.
Is there any question? Okay, sir. Then I have a question.
Sure.
Is this technology is useful for our remote area where temperature is very high that helps our poor farmers?
Sorry, say that again. The temperature is very high.
So that our poor farmers can adopt it. Poor farmers.
Oh, poor farmers.
Is this technology useful in our remote area where temperature is very high so that our poor farmers can adopt it?
Correct. Yes, it can be. Yes, it is. That is the whole focus of my work there in India right now. And this particular farm in Solop in Kolkata that I've shown you some photos of, this is actually working in a very harsh environment. Well, maybe not as harsh as Bakura or Birbhum, but trust me, actually in those areas, because the enthalpy is low, it is totally possible. The humidity load is not that high. So yes, it is possible. We have to use subsoil geothermal energy. We have to use thermal buffer, and we can use dynamic shading. Just these three things together can do a lot, and this can be done with local resources made by local poor farmers themselves. All they need is the training, the knowledge, the know-how. So in short, yes, it is possible. It was not possible, but